There you go, bud. Welcome to another victorious edition of the Dolphins Dive Bar. I'm your buddy, Tony, 2 times. Chicky, taking a little sippy. We got a nice little beer today, and we are going to talk about a Miami football team that was finally able to beat a North Carolina-based football team in the game of football this weekend. The Miami Dolphins getting that well-deserved 42-21 victory over the Carolina Panthers. Let's get into it. So the Fins move to 5-1. Carolina stays winless on the, I wouldn't say young season anymore because we're 6 games into it. This game to me today was like the expression the tale of two halves. No, it was the tale of 2 quarters because in the first quarter, the Miami Dolphins could not do anything. Their first 2 possessions were 3 and out, and after a strong defensive possession to open the game, Chubb getting a sack and everything, then the defense became porous. They lost every battle in the trenches. They were letting Carolina just move the ball at will for those next 2 drives, scoring touchdowns. One on the ground through, Old Mother Hubbard, and then X-Man just going through his outstretched hands, missing a potential interception, or a pass defended into the receiver's hand for a touchdown. We couldn't do nothing. They could do whatever they wanted. Offense starts the game with 2 3-and-outs in a row, and they're 2 basic possessions in the first. Offense tried to get cute on like a 3rd and 1. They're in like a bunch formation, and they looked like they were going to hand the ball off, but then Tua goes to throw it, and it actually counts as a forced fumble because he threw it behind the receiver. Wound up losing like mad yards, like 10 yards or so, which led to a punt and another 3-and-out. But then after that, the defense pretty much picked up where it left off against the Giants last week. Like after that first quarter, the defense really hunkered down and didn't give up anything for the rest of the game. Once that second quarter began, it was all Miami. Raheem Mostert ran like a demon today. He broke out for a nice 49-yard run on one of those touchdown drives. He's running through, he's breaking tackles. He looked like a ping pong ball on that 49-yard run. Raheem Mostert, filling in for the injured Achane, and who's on the 4-game IR right now. But we didn't even miss Achane today because Mostert ran the ball so well. Like he had that starting job, and Achane kind of took it from him. But now he's like, hey, keep feeding me the ball. I can make it happen. I'm a good enough back, and he is, and we saw that. And hopefully, he continues to build on it over the course of the next 3 weeks, because that 1-2 combination that these guys have together, it could be the most deadly 1-2 duo in the league. It already is, really. Mostert has like 11 touchdowns already. Like some whole teams, like the Giants, and like they got like 12 touchdowns as a team on the season. You got one guy that's basically got your whole team's total, like 6 weeks in. Mostert finishes the game, 17 carries for 115 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. McDaniel said that this season he wanted to put more of an emphasis on the running game, and it's paying off. It's coming to fruition. A lot of those zone runs that they like to do, they kind of feel gimmicky sometimes because you're not going between the tackles, hitting your gaps and all that stuff, but it's working. And the offensive line, they're getting out there and they're getting the blocks. this offensive line was sick today, Liam Eichenberg filling in for an injured Connor Williams at the center position. No high snaps, no bobbled snapped fumbles or anything like that. And they give up no sacks. That O-line, held great. And that's a confidence-building thing heading into next week's game against Philly. So Tua hits Waddle on a touchdown in the end zone, which was crazy because he had Tyreek Hill wide open underneath, right? Would have been easy-peasy touchdown. But instead, he looks like he threw it kind of back shoulder and hits Waddle, who's covered in the end zone by a defensive back. So I'd still like to see some of the decision-making process get better, or maybe just look at that other read because, it would have been so easy peasy to Hill. But hey, when it works out, it's genius, right? Waddle also, he got to eat a little bit today. He had He had 7 catches for 51 yards, and then, that before-mentioned touchdown. I would like to see Waddle be used a little bit more the way like Tyreek Hill is used, in coming off of those motions, being able to get into space. Because if Waddle can get into space, then he can get some of those big yak yards and receptions the same way Hill does. I mean, come on, because the speed is comparable. So just give the guy some space and kind of let him fly. So that added piece, I think, could make this offense even much more dynamic. Cheetah had a great game today, man. He had, speaking of space and speed, you give him space with his speed, I mean, he just makes things happen. Like, he has 6 catches, 163 yards, touchdown. His touchdown came on that 41-yard touchdown pass near the end of the second quarter. Just, come on. You're going to play the Cheetah one-on-one with no over-the-top help, or with the safety coming over too late? I mean, you just got to throw it up. I mean, he's already got like 5 yards on you. Easy touchdown. The backflip, grab the phone celebration, you know, one of the top celebrations of the year for sure. But it's funny, in his post-game presser, Cheetah said that the league was probably going to fine him for that backflip, you know. And I mean, it's going to be like the 3rd fine he picks up this season. You know, 2 of those fines with no socks or not wearing socks, and then today, you know, a backflip celebration. Speaking of the socks, you know, Dolphins went with their whiteout uniforms again today. But I don't know, man. When you look at the back of those jerseys and you see like that aqua in the name and in the number, especially the number, it looks so good. And that stripe on the helmet, like, that is such a beautiful color. You know, make the aqua socks. Wear aqua pants. I guess you want to do the whiteout, put the aqua socks on. I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's like the little things, the little aesthetics that make, you know, Miami pop. You know, like, don't get me started, because I still feel that these guys should be rocking aqua face masks, you know? I mean, it's Miami. Give it some pop, give it some color, man. But, you know, people a lot smarter than me, who make a lot more money than I do, make these business decisions, and what are you going to do, right? I also love the way that I love the jersey that he wears, you know. It's almost like the jerseys that, like, you know, the fans wear, you know. He's got, like, Tyreek's got, like, the longer sleeves on his jersey. It's not all poked up in there on the underneath the shoulder pad and everything. I don't know, it's a cool aesthetic. He also had a lot of big plays over the course of the game, you know, a lot of catch and run. You know, he gets that ball and then he just kind of ducks around and gets into space. And he came up limping a couple of times, you know, he got a little crampy. At the one point he had to go to the back and get the IV. Like I said last week, you know, cheetahs, they can only sprint for short distances and they get tired and they have to go and pant for a few minutes, calm that body temperature down. But then once he did, and he's just back out there catching more passes and running, you know, more ungodly amounts of yards. The defense did good against a 0-win team, of course. I mean, they only allowed the 2 touchdowns in the first quarter and really clamped down for the rest of the game. But one thing I do want to see from the Dolphins defense, especially coming up next week, is like you're just gonna have to force more turnovers. I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but this team, other than Javon Holland punching the ball out a couple times, like, this team really doesn't force that many fumbles this year, and they don't really get any interceptions this year. The DBs are just, I mean, they're back there, they're playing. It's a lot of zone, you know, like a lot of guys just wide open in that zone, like Adam Thielen just catching balls wide open in that zone. That's that Vic Fangio style of defense where it's not as man heavy and there's not as many opportunities for the DBs and the safeties to make the plays. The only boneheaded play in the second half was when they pulled Tua, and then Mike White immediately comes in to the game and throws a pick 6, and then everybody's like, hey, we should put Tua back in. But he settled down, and, you know, the Dolphins, basically that second half was just kind of a run the ball, kill time, and just don't make any mistakes, don't get nobody hurt, so we can go into next week's game as healthy as possible. Next week, Sunday Night Football, the Dolphins' next game, going up to a very raucous, very hostile Philadelphia to play the 5-1 Eagles, because as of this recording, the Eagles just lost to Zach Wilson and the Jets. I shouldn't even say Zach Wilson. That Jets defense is, I mean, something severe. And if you want to beat Philly next week, you're going to have to take a couple of pages from that defense. You're going to have to make Hurts scramble, throw on the run, but you're going to have to make him run to the sidelines, not give him space where he can just run the football and get first downs on you, chew it up that way. But no, he's got to run to the side and try to hit his receivers. And then also, we got to find somebody that can cover Brown, because that dude, I mean, this is his fourth game in a row where he's had 125 plus yards receiving, which is an NFL record. So, X-Man, I mean, he was dealing with nursing a groin injury today. He's probably not going to be the answer to cover him next week. Eli Apple, I don't know. Kader Kohu against a guy at that caliber. I mean, individually, these guys are good, but you're going to have to show the Eagles something else, or this guy's just going to continue to get wide open and just make big plays on you. And we cannot have that if they want to win this game. The pass rush really needs to get home. They really have to put it on Hurts. And there's no other way. Like Sealer, Wilkins, those guys making sacks, getting hits, Van Ginkel. He's got to appear. He kind of disappeared today. He's got to appear next week and make some plays so we can get that W versus Philly. Players of the game, I want to give the first game ball. I mean, you could give it to anybody on that offense, really. Like Mostert, Waddle, Hill, not necessarily Waddle, but Hill with all those yards. But I want to give it to Tua because 21 for 31 with 263 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Didn't really make, other than that Waddle throw, didn't really make any of those boneheaded plays there where he's like, it looks like he's good for a pick every game. And, of course, he didn't get sacked because that O-line, once again, I'm mentioning them, did great. Eichenberg filling in for Williams. On defense, I want to give it to Christian Wilkins today. He's playing so hard to get that contract, right? And, I mean, he got there. He had good run stopping. He had 2 big sacks. You know, he was Spider-Man, doing his Power Ranger thing out there. You know, he's trying to earn that second contract, and he's playing hard. And as the weeks have been progressing, his play has been getting better. He's been getting home to the quarterback, you know. This isn't like the defense that allows him to feast the way that he likes to stunt and do his moves. So playing in the confines of this defense, good players figure out a way to make themselves better, and that's what Wilkins is doing. He's not being utilized the way that he traditionally likes to be utilized, where he can make the plays, but he's still making the plays in Fangio's scheme. So as long as he continues to do that, I mean, that guy should get paid. Well, we're done with our beer. We're done with our drink, which means we're wrapping up this week's video. Join me next week after the Sunday Night Football game where the Dolphins play the Eagles, and hopefully we're celebrating a 6-1 record. We'll see. Because next week is going to be a big test, you know. Because a lot of people give the Dolphins crap about their record. You know, you're beating teams that their overall records are like 500 or worse, and then the one team that, you know, has gumption that you do play, Buffalo, like shuts you out, or not shuts you out, but beats the crap out of you. So this game is going to be a big test because, you know, the Eagles coming off of a Super Bowl appearance last year and then, you know, being undefeated up until today, you know, they got a lot going for them. They're one of the top teams in the league, and you have to test yourself and you have to be able to beat the top teams because the next time you see this team potentially could be in a Super Bowl. So you got to show them something. You can't be getting blown out. But anyway, I want to thank you for coming to the dive bar and joining me, and I'll see you next week, huh?